right folks can help curate your decision.
Welcome to the Service to Syndication Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, capital raisers in the world who have worn the uniform of this great country, those who provide services to our men and women in uniform, and other service-oriented professionals to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer your dreams and goals in real estate and to use this wealth creation vehicle so you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of generosity and prosperity. If what you desire is time, lifestyle, and financial freedom, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, the knowledge, experience, skills, so you can go out and crush it in whatever real estate asset class you desire. So grab a pencil and paper, sit back, and enjoy the ride on the Service to Syndication Podcast.
Hello, my servicemen and women and other service providers. Welcome to another episode of the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Cedric Marlowe. Here on the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast, we interview the most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world, where most have donned the uniforms of our great country. We aim to provide the tool sets, the mindsets, and skill sets for you to achieve your personal and business goals, while using real estate as a wealth creation vehicle to help you live a more successful, happy, and fun-filled life. I am super excited today because I have with me venture capitalist, Mr. Derren Burrell. But before I properly introduce our exciting guest to you, I want to ask a favor of you. Please, if you get some insight, if you get some mindset shift, or receive inspiration or motivation to go out and make some progress in your life, please share this episode with some of your friends. Send it to someone you know who might be or could be interested. Share it on your social media, post it on your wall, and share it in your stories. Help us spread our message while you help others. Everyone, again, I have with me Mr. Derren Burrell. He is the founder and managing partner of Veteran Ventures Capital, a venture capital firm investing in early stage and growth companies led by U.S. veterans in the national security and defense sectors. A retired U.S. Air Force officer with 21 years of service, he previously managed $350 million as a resource director of the White House Communications Agency and oversaw over $20 billion in wartime budgets during deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. Following his military career, Derren led operations at TAG Resources, helping grow the firm 5X and leading it to acquisition. 28 plus years in finance. He holds multiple credentials, including accredited investment fiduciary and certified defense financial manager, and is passionate about empowering veteran-led innovation. All right, Derren, first off, welcome, and thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit about Veterans Venture Capital and exactly what it is that you guys do. In kind of 75 seconds or less, just kind of give my listeners a little bit of intro into what Veteran Ventures is.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Cedric. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing here at Veteran Ventures, or VVC. Just, again, a little bit different, I think, than maybe some of the guests you've had on in the real estate arena, because that's not exactly where we play, but certainly are allied with those folks who support your endeavors too. But yeah, Veteran Ventures Capital, we basically invest at the intersection of dual use technologies, which means it has a commercial use in the private sector as well as a governmental use in the public sector, and veteran leadership. So the companies are veteran-owned or veteran-led, having someone in that C-suite that has undergone the military training, leadership development experience, things that I've done in my career as well as in the private sector. We find that those skill sets that you learn in the military are extremely applicable to the private side. And so that's the genesis behind when I founded Veteran Ventures about 6 years ago. But we're an investment firm. So we raise money through funds. We raised our first fund at 20 million and deployed that. And now we're finishing up our second fund, which looks to be about triple in size and triple in opportunity. But dual use technologies, veteran leadership equals triple bottom line impact is what I like to say. So we helped secure our nation's national security and defense posture. We help veterans in transition, and we earn an excessive return for our limited partners and investors. That's us in a nutshell. Happy to go down whatever rabbit hole you want to today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've had a distinguished 21-year career in the Air Force, and now you lead a venture capital firm focused on veteran-led startups, as you mentioned. What inspired your transition from military service to entrepreneurship and investing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my 21-year career was as a financial manager. So I've really been in the field for about 30 years doing this. But essentially, I managed large programs for the DoD at various levels, whether that was in the Pentagon, whether that was on the front lines, or even in the White House. And when I transitioned out of the military service about 10 years ago, I really didn't think about doing the getting back into Department of Defense type of dealings. I did want to stay in the financial arena. So what I ended up finding out is that the skills and the leadership that I learned about as a commander in the military when I became a chief operating officer of a small fiduciary firm in Knoxville, Tennessee, that the same principles apply. Leadership is important. It helps the structure and the administrative things that the military does well. Think about just organization and hierarchy and getting things done, mission execution, if you will. Those are things that are really applicable in small businesses. So that's what I started to do in the company that I was at. And again, led it to a 5X in about 3 years. When I found out that this company was exploding under that type of leadership, they asked me to raise a couple $1 million in private equity. And so that's what I sought out to do. I found out that veteran-owned businesses had a challenge in getting access to capital. They said, hey, go raise $2 million. And it took me a little bit longer than I would have expected after doing this in the military. And so I knew if it was going to be hard for me, I got the job done, but I learned a lot in the process. And that's where I decided to say, there's a big access to capital gap, if you will, and for veteran-owned and led businesses. And so that's what led me to start Veteran Ventures, saying I can bridge this gap. I've got an experience in the military side of doing what I did. Now I'm in the private side. If I can help bridge these gaps together for other veterans and other companies like ours, then that was something I really wanted to pursue. So it's been great. Personal experience of raising money is hard, and so I decided to try and make that path a little bit more straight for others that came after me, if that makes sense.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I second what you said. Raising capital is definitely hard. Doing it on the real estate side, it's pretty hard, and you have to get in there. People have to know, like, and trust you, and they more, and I think you can attest to this. They invest more in you sometimes than necessarily, or who, in your case, the CEOs of the companies that you're investing into than necessarily the product itself.
Right. That's right. And when it all comes down to, we're all relationship investors, right? It's about the people first, and whether or not we are looking at companies, because we look at about 500 different deals a year when we decide to invest our LP's money into various deals. So we're looking at the team first, and it's having that understanding even translates when we're trying to raise money. They're investing in you as a person. They're investing in your thesis and your methodology, possibly second. But really, when it comes right down to it, you're building rapport. You're trying to find ways to connect. And then after that, that trust is built. And then you get some returns, and that trust is reinforced, right? That's kind of what we do at Veteran Ventures, both for our LPs as well as the companies that we invest in.
Okay. And I believe that you said that you guys invest in early stage companies. So can you define early stage? But not only that, but why focus on veteran-owned companies?
Yeah, great question. So as far as where do we invest in the business life cycle stage? It is early on in the life cycle, but it's a little bit past the prototype, the pre-revenue. We don't do pre-revenue companies. We look at companies that have at least $1 million in revenue. So they're on this trajectory where they're getting ready to shoot up and really grow, but they just need that extra, gas in the form of capital to really help them, take those use of funds and scale up the company appropriately. So that's typically around Series A, if you're familiar with the various levels. So we can go late seed, we can go up to Series B, but we like to focus on the Series A plus or minus. And that literally means they have demonstrated product market fit, right? They know their customer. They want to try and get into maybe the DoD or other areas within government contracting. And I'd say that's our number one value add is we help connect them with the right areas that we did when we were active duty. So we understand how the government procurement and acquisition regulatory framework works. And if you get that correct, then you can be very successful on the private side. And then when you're dealing with the government like that, it really helps to have that veteran who understands a little bit more on how DoD works. So that's one of the areas that we think is really important when what we wanted to combine is this idea of entrepreneurship, innovation, coupled with veterans. We think that's a very winning strategy. It helps them understand. We all know that I believe the number one advantage that the military brings to the business world is getting things done, right? It's mission execution. And that is so important in the early stages of business operations, and execution is just that, right? And so we think veterans do that better than anybody. And that's why we really require some level of veteran leadership within that C-suite. It doesn't necessarily have to be, 51% veteran owned, service disabled. We have those in the portfolio, of course, but we've invested with just 5% ownership because they've got that skin in the game. They're going to be there a while, and they're employing the skills that they learned in the military in helping these companies take operations to the next level.
Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, during your military career, you managed multi-billion-dollar defense budgets, of course, in high-stake environments. How did those experiences shape your leadership style in the private sector?
Yeah, that's another good question. So I would say that, there's a lot that goes into the experiences that you get when you're in the military. I think that, when I was managing these large opportunities and budgets in the military, what I found was that there was always these competing priorities and trade-offs and things that large decisions that need to be made in a time-constrained environment. And I find that being a similar case when you're running a business, right? It's an opportunities. You always have these areas that you can help that maybe all of them are really good choices. So how do you weigh which ones are more important than the other? Prioritization. And I think that's important skill set that you learn in the military, where you have a list of orders and that some of them may end up in a competing priority. And how do you figure that out? You do that through participatory management, right? You take input from your troops. You understand the different levels of what decisions may happen in the second and third order effects. I think those same principles apply to the private side too. We have a partnership at Veteran Ventures Capital. There's 5 of us in that partnership, and we help make decisions as a group that help bring the entire company forward, whether that be for our portfolio companies, whether that be for our investors. We kind of serve both in similar capacities. And having that understanding of lots of competing priorities that you would have in the military, that definitely is something that we see in small and early stage business, and even in how we run VBC as a whole. Does that make sense?
From your time at the Pentagon or deployed environments have proven most valuable as a fund manager or investor?
Yeah, it really does come down to relying on your people, right? I think the teams and the team structure that you have. One of our advisors and investors is General Stanley McChrystal. He has a great book called Team of Teams. I think that's really important for someone of his caliber to continue to discuss that it's about the team and about making sure that you've got the right people at the right place at the right time. I feel like that was important in the military. It served me in various structures, whether or not I was managing a large budget at a wing, whether I was a commander of a squadron overseas. Those things were just, it was all about finding the right people that I relied upon for day-to-day operations, for having that strategic look and helping and make informed decisions, but making decisions. And the same holds true, I think, for any small business and leaving it as you rise up in the ranks and your business grows. The importance of the team and having the right people around you can give you a more balanced view of how to really grow that business, how to make the right decisions in light of all the different competing priorities we just talked about, and really just having that mindset of making that decision, having the right opportunities to enforce your decisions and get the right people to support that and help execute. Does that make sense too? I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more, I should say. In the military, it's about the team making the mission, getting the mission accomplished, whatever it is, by any means necessary. There's definitely in the military, that's the first thing I learned. There is definitely no I in team when you're in the military. And it starts from boot camp all the way through your career. You rely on one another, no matter how bad the situation is or good the situation is, you're relying on that person that's next to you to carry out that mission and move the mission forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's important. And one of the reasons we love dealing with veterans in the outside too, because they understand that mindset, right? When you're talking to someone that has been in your shoes and understands the life of the military and the trust that you have with that person that's on your right and on your left. And I think that bodes well. And that's why we like to invest in the veteran leadership aspects of the companies that we are. It just makes so much more sense. And they have a sense of trust in us that we're going to help them. Can sometimes be a less than stellar reputation for the VC firms that come in and try and take over. We don't do that. We are there to support and to really lend a hand to our CEOs and founders. And I think that is a level of trust that they have in us because they send us more deals, right? They know other CEOs in the space in the innovation in the early stage. And that's where some of our best deal flows come is from other founders that have been a part of what we've built here at VVC over the years.
Okay. So because of the fact that these people, as you just stated, have walked in our shoes, is that one of the reasons why you particularly in the security and defense space invest alongside those founders?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's part of it. It's also what we know, right? So we really understand the defense space. We understand where we can help our companies out. We're pretty active investors. We like to say we give our founders as much help as they can stand. We help them understand their pipeline. We help them find government opportunities. In fact, for about every $1 million that we invest, we're able to source at least another $10 million from governmental sources in the form of research and development contracts and things like and grants and opportunities, whether that's a DARPA project, whether that's a congressional ad, these different areas that we have a lot of experience in. The government budget, again, for 2025 was $986 billion, I think. About $143 billion of that is devoted to research and development. And so we kind of target that pot of money, find out the different technologies that are really growing the fastest within the DoD budget. I mean, we helped write the budget when we were, active duty. So we understand where to look for that money. And then we understand how to connect our founders at the right time, wherever that money is. We're really experts in knowing where the money flows within DoD at the various stages and are able to help our firms capitalize on that knowledge. So we really understand the defense space. We understand that we can add the most value there. And also, if you can get the government to back you with almost 10 times our investment amount, that really helps de-risk the investment a tremendous amount. Government doesn't like to give out, $10 million contracts without some sort of long-term play, which then brings other major defense players into the space, whether those primes are, Lockheed, Booz Allen, Boeing, those type of companies that are looking really looking at the next technology and innovation and how they're going to buy it too. They typically outsource their R&D just like the DoD does. So it's a good exit strategy for us too, of seeing these companies grow, they get to 20, 30, 50 million in revenue, and all of a sudden a large defense prime, whether that be even an Anduril today or Palantir, SpaceX, those types of companies, that are really taking the new acquisition way that we're also a part of. That leads to, great liquidation opportunities for our companies and our investors. And ultimately, that's how we end up having a fund two and a fund three here, is just kind of building upon our successes for what we've been able to build thus far.
I love that. I love that. So if there's a founder, of a company right now that's gonna listen to this podcast in the national security and defense space areas, what is it that you guys look for in that founder in order for you to say, okay, you know what, we're gonna back the founder and push the envelope forward on his company?
Yeah, it's a combination of things, right? It's a great question because it's what every, venture capitalists, we have a pretty extensive due diligence process, right? So most of the folks that are having this level of traction again, so they gotta do a couple of, I guess, screening areas. Do they have that veteran in the C-suite and on the cap table? Okay, check. Do they have at least $1 million in revenue? Check. Are they a dual use firm, meaning a public use and a commercial use? Check. Okay, so, and then if it's in one of these areas that we really like, which is about, it's space, it's autonomy, it's quantum, it's material science, it's that military term C5ISR, which is basically command and control, and then AI or ML. Those are the areas that are growing the fastest within DoD budgetary areas. And so that's the things that we look for. Okay, so they got that. Then it's a matter of, tell us about the team. Tell us about the people that are that are in your areas of influence, and how are y'all working together? What gels with you? Are you coachable? Are you, and do you have that traction? And do you have that necessary, I guess, the ability to get things done? So it's really, I'd say it's really important that the team is there, the timing is there, the traction is there, and that helps us to really kind of evaluate the deal and then see where we can help. If it's not something that we can really get behind because we don't have that expertise, then it's something that we would have to either find a subject matter expertise within our veteran ecosystem and the financial ecosystem, or we'd have to say, okay, well, we love what you're doing. Here's some folks in our ecosystem that may have the expertise that would look at your deal. So again, even if we don't invest with a company, I want to see every veteran business be successful. So we'll try and figure out ways that we can help them, even if that's not with a dollar sign.
We know you're gonna like this episode, so please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so you can be notified when the next episode drops.
Yeah, I definitely get that. In my business, that's kind of like how I run my business. I look at it as, I'm a connector of people. I meet people all the time from various parts of the country. And, an investor in California may invest in, I don't know, Virginia. Okay, do I know any boots on ground in Virginia? Yeah, I know this person over there. So I connect them, because, and don't look for anything in return. I don't, just because, I'm a good natured person and I just want to help out my fellow investor. That's it. Bottom line.
That's it. I think that's a mindset of veterans helping veterans no matter what. Now, if it's a great opportunity that's going to look like it's going to be, a business that's going to grow, we obviously want to do that first for our investors.
Right.
But on top of that if it doesn't make that doesn't mean it's a dead issue for us. It just means that we need to find someone else that can help you better than we can, right? And so I think it is about like I said in the beginning, relationships really matter more than anything. Relationship investors, that's what we are, or relationships within the ecosystem of, I'm not a good fit for you, but I know a handful of folks that are. Let me go ahead and push you out to them and make some intros on their behalf. Again, I'm sure that resonates with you and with a lot of the folks that are listening in on this.
100% on that. Yeah, definitely. So Derren, at Tag Resources, you generated a 5x return in just 3 years. What were the key factors behind that success?
Yeah, I think, again, what a lot of small business tends to have trouble area is really a strong point of the military. When you get into a small business, it's a little bit of ad hoc, really maybe fly by the seat of your pants type of management style, right? So what the military helps do is instill a level of organization and administrative prowess that, we have a checklist mentality for just about everything, right? Putting those strong administrative areas in place that help give structure, then that help give consistency in product output. I think that's really what small business needs, and what I was able to provide in my short tenure there at TAG. And so that's what really led. I mean, the company had about 450 million assets under management when I got there, and by the time that it was acquired, it was over 3 billion in assets. So it really grew quickly. There was about 40 people, and when I got there, and then in just a couple of years, it was well over 100, because they were growing, because they had the building blocks that we put in place, that structure, that foundation, and just process administration. And that process management really led to the company growing quicker, because they had a standardized, an SOP, right? And so that helped them kind of really take what they thought they were doing, putting it in a documented fashion, and then allowing them to scale on top of that. And I think that was a combination of a great team at the right time, and then putting in some of those principles that serve you well in the military and very applicable in small business.
So as a certified defense financial manager and accredited investment fiduciary, how do you approach risk and stewardship in both institutional and startup investments?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So I think what we basically do is, these dollars were entrusted to us. We are fiduciaries. We do act in the best manner of our investors. So we take that very seriously. Every investment that we look at, and we have skin in the game ourselves. The partnership does have to invest in every deal. So we're actually, putting our money where your mouth is kind of thing. But it's also a matter of, checking all of the different boxes when it comes to due diligence. A huge piece of that, which, can get you in a lot of trouble, is the financials, right? The financials and the compliance, and making sure that the statements that we receive have some level of credibility to them, and just how much credibility will determine, where it falls within our rack and stack. So we take a look at these deals, we scrutinize the heck out of them. We go through the financials, we conduct the projections, and figure out, where the truth lies. Lots of questions, lots of back and forth. So it's a very iterative process, and it's also steeped in this area of understanding this is not our money, right? We've been entrusted as stewards of this money, and we try to take that very seriously with every dollar that we deploy, with every dollar that we expense, and make sure that it's in the best interest of our investors and even our founders, right? We're advisors. We usually sit on boards of every company that we invest in, either as observers or as full-up board members, and even chairs in some of the board meetings. And that allows us to have really a look underneath the hood of how these companies are operating, giving them advice based upon our experience. We've all had private enterprise experience, and we know how to run a company. And so that helps translate our experiences to what these younger folks are looking to do in early stage. And they do, it seems to work pretty well, because we have a very strong relationship with all of our portfolio companies, and look to make them successful, while at the same time balancing the requirements of what they need versus what our investments and our resources are able to provide.
Okay. So we just talked about being a fiduciary and steward of investor capital. Who are your investors?
Yeah. So it's funny, there's businesses are always out trying to raise money to, take their operations to the next level. We don't do anything different, right? I go out and I go to high net worth individuals, family offices, institutions, university endowments, state plans, and things like that. And those are all investors in our funds. Okay, so we've gotten a lot of family office capital, probably the majority. Well, that is the majority in Fund One. We've had some institutions that have come into our second fund, a couple of different universities, and even some state funds as well. So it's a mixture of institutions and family offices, and the individual high net worth individuals as well. So it's a really a cross section. Anybody, we right now are limiting to US based domiciled investors. Our partners have security clearances. We do a lot of work with DoD. We want to make sure that we're trusted capital. So we don't take foreign investment at this time, and haven't really come across need to do that as of yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's great that you haven't had the need for it, because as both you and I know, there's plenty of that capital, that foreign capital that's waiting to invest here in the United States. And the fact that you haven't had to do that, I'm assuming that's a testament to you and your ability to be a great salesperson for VVC.
Yeah, and it aligns. What we like to look at is what we call patriotic capital, right? If you're interested in, supporting our nation's veterans, if you're interested in strengthening our national security and defense, but you also want to make a return, right? This is a fund for you. We're looking at the same principles and priorities that our government has. About the one thing they can agree on in both sides of the aisle is a strong national defense and friendshoring, reshoring, keeping the IP on this side of the pond. All of those things are things that we stand for, right? And so we help basically make the case that all of the different things that are undergirding current world events, the things and the national security issues that we're going through, now is the time. And I think what used to be taboo was investing in defense, right? Most of Silicon Valley avoided defense tech investing. That's definitely changed over the last 5 years or so, since we were there for when most of it wasn't, I guess as in vogue as it is now. But, everybody can see that over the next, 10 years or 15 years, there is a modernization of warfare that is coming. There is more innovation needed on the battlefield. There's automation that is occurring, and there's just a sense that what we are facing is much more of a polarized world, but a defense innovation world. And so we're in a great spot. We think that this area is going to grow multiples. I think that the defense-focused investing over the last several years has increased 25-fold, but less than 1% of VC-backed companies actually have access to the DoD funding that we do. Our companies, we invested, again, our first fund was in 14 companies, and they generated about $160 million of non-dilutive funding on top of our equity investments, meaning they got governmental funds, that 10-to-1 match that I was telling you about. Yeah. And now in Fund 2, it's a little bit higher than that. We've made a couple investments in Fund 2, and they've generated about $60 million in non-dilutive funding, again, on top of our equity investments. So that's a formula for de-risking investments. It's a formula for decreasing dilution in future rounds when you can get Uncle Sam to pay for, $10 million of your R&D development cost, and our money actually goes to scale the companies. So that's really what it's, what we've seen is leveraging our experience in the DoD realm, doing what we did in the military now on the other side of the coin, and really helping communicate where defense investing is continuing to really grow, and us being at the forefront, right? We're not what we call spectators, where there's a lot of large venture capital firms that do this major spray and pray. Well, they'll just, sprinkle a little bit of money across. We're pretty focused. We figure out what we know the government wants, what that technology is. We tailor our deal flow appropriately and are able to then help these companies scale further and faster with, really accelerating the IRR and faster liquidity events. It's proven to be very successful in Fund 1, and we're continuing that now in Fund 2, that again is about triple the size of the first fund.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? It just, you're staying in your lane, basically. The lane that is where you're staying, and it's seeming to prove great dividends for the investors as well as the organizations that you guys are investing in.
Absolutely. And there's so much room to run here. There's so much opportunity in the defense sector. And then backing not only a defense focused firm, but one that has that veteran in leadership, who's used to exercise employees under pressure, who is very resilient, who operates well in a team, and who understands and is coachable to help understand how to take their operations to the next level. All of that is a perfect recipe for not only success as a firm, but for success for our investors too.
Yeah, love it. Derren, so you've earned accolades like the Presidential Service Badge and hold a black belt in Taekwondo, and so do I. Thank you. What drives your personal discipline, and how do you apply that mindset in business?
Yeah, I think that's another great characteristic that the military breeds in you, right? Is that discipline. And it really translates again into another business attribute that is very well received in the small business arena. You need discipline, right? Whether that's getting up every morning and working out and having time, whether that's remaining true to the qualities that govern our great nation. And so what drives me is its ability and this desire to see veterans be successful, to generate returns for the people that have entrusted us with their money, and also just the things that govern me and the faith that I have and the family that I have. I've been blessed with, and I seek to use the talents that God has given me to really help the people that I interact with, the teams that we are a part of, the company that we've helped build, and the companies that we invest in. So it's a mixture of things. I've got a wife of almost 29 years now and 5 kids, and they certainly are part of that undergird and that foundation that helps me get up every morning and go to work and be really excited to get up and do what I do each and every day.
Okay, great, great. All right, so you were selected for colonel, but instead chose to retire. Can you walk us through that pivotal decision and what it taught you about leadership or legacy?
Yeah, so when I was at the White House, that was when I was the managing the president's communication budget. I did get selected for colonel. It was not guaranteed, and so one of the things that you'll learn again in the military is always have that what happens when things go wrong plan. And so I had really what I found is that when all of the idea of trying to get promoted was in play, I had a couple of different opportunities and job offers in the private sector. And so the what I really enjoyed doing was leading people and leading the military side of things. When I got offered the next rank, it was going to take me more and more out of the people side of what I did and just managing larger budgets and potentially having less military around me and more civilians. And so then it was like, okay, I enjoyed the relationships that I had as a commander, that those were probably not going to happen in future assignments. And then it was, when I was talking to a couple of people, the job that I ultimately landed at TAG, it was a numbers game too. I calculated the retirement of a lieutenant colonel and the retirement of a colonel. I saw the delta, and I wanted to see if I could bridge that gap in the private side, and I really wanted to try something new. I felt like the job prospects or the assignment prospects were limited, and so then it was a very long discussion with the family. Did not make that decision in a vacuum. But it was a combination of things. It was where was I going to go next? It was where do we want to be as a family, and then what do I want to do? And at the time, it seemed like the balances and the scales tilted a little bit more towards the private side. So I have to say, there was a little bit of wow. Some of my friends kept on, and they did some really great things for the military as a colonel. And I missed out on some of those things. But then again, I've learned so much in the private side over these last 10 years that I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been a really great decision for us, but it was certainly a hard one to make. And so I understand when you're in those crossroads. I know a lot of the folks that listen to your podcast maybe are in that transitory, what do I do? Do I stay? Do I get out? And I would just say, don't make a decision too quick. I would say it was 6 months of a decision, discussion, analysis, of all the different pros and cons. And in the end, it was the right decision for us. We made the right decision, but you still have that, man, I wonder what would have happened if I would have stayed in mentality. But that's that. I think that's pretty natural.
Yeah, that's definitely natural. I mean, I've been out now, oh gosh, at this point, I guess double-digit years, and yeah, you always have that in the back of your mind, like, okay, what would have happened, where I would have been, but
That's
then
right.
also you have to look at where you're at as well. You wouldn't be as far as you are had you stayed in that much longer. So, yeah, a
That's right.
personal decision, and you made it and moved forward with it.
That's right.
Man, time flies when you're having fun, But before we wrap this up, I have just a few more questions for you. What advice would you give veterans looking to break into entrepreneurship or venture capital?
Yeah, well, so I get that a lot, and I'm more than happy, if folks from your podcast have questions, by all means, you can find me on LinkedIn, reference this, and I'll certainly set up an appointment. We could talk further. Getting into entrepreneurship is, I think, one of the best things that you can do. There's lots of great people that when they transition out, they become, GS employees, they become contractors. Those are services that we need. So I'm not downplaying that at all. But
Mhm.
there's also an embedded, I guess, persona that I think the military does, where you can function well in an autonomous environment because you've been given, or, the government invests billions in developing our nation's leaders every year. So we take those same skill sets and we compare them to Fortune 500 CEOs. They're very similar in nature, right? And so I think that that's really important. But there's so many different services out there that really help you understand what you're getting into. So I would find an entrepreneurial, I guess, incubator. The biggest one that I'm affiliated with was used to be called Bunker Labs, and it's merged with the IVMF, the Institute of Veteran and Military Families Institute out of Syracuse University. They have these accelerators and incubators that help you understand the life of an entrepreneur. There's plenty more out there. If you just, Google entrepreneurship for veterans, you'll come up with hundreds and hundreds of hits. So I think that you want to, again, calculate the cost, understand what you're getting into, and then see if it's something that you have a passion for doing that maybe you did in the military and you think you can do it better, faster, cheaper than the contractors that are doing it now. Then I think you have an opportunity and you have an ability to take that business, that thought, if you will, and really help it grow into a business and have so many resources out there. Don't go it alone. And again, I'm happy to help connect you with the right folks can help curate your decision. But I would say that there's so much out there now that wasn't out there 10 years ago that can help you, give you the tools and the resources pretty much that are free, that really give you that foundation you need to start a business.
Great, great. So what's next for VVC and for you personally as you continue building the mission-driven investment platform?
Yeah, so again, we're wrapping up our second fund, and I'm sorry, the second fund raise. So then it's all about execution, right? Still doesn't change. We deploy the capital. We try to do about a deal a quarter, and so we're looking to invest to deploy this money over the next 3 years, and then after that we start with Fund 4. With each one of them, we get a lot more activity from the institutional side. So we want to continue to grow the firm because we help really connect more businesses with access to capital, help them again be successful, generate the returns, and that's it. I love what I do. I see no need to change what's been going on. It's been successful for us as a firm, me as an individual, our family. So I love where I'm at right now. I think it's there's so much more to grow in the defense side and in the investment side. And so we've got a pretty solid path going forward. So what's next? Fund 3 in a couple of years, Fund 4 after that, and just continuing to really invest in that intersection of dual use technologies and veteran leadership.
I love it. I love it. Well, Derren, it's been great having you as our guest. But before I let you go, please give our listeners where we can learn about you, find out a little bit more about you, get in touch with you, and find out about all the fabulous things you have going on right now.
Yeah, I really, again, Cedric, what you're doing here is getting the word out, and really appreciate what you do and what you bring to the podcast world that helps connect and veterans to be very well educated when they have that decision and they don't know exactly where they want to go. So I appreciate that first and foremost. To learn more about VVC, our website's pretty easy. It's veteranventures.us. So if you go to that website, you learn about our investment methodology, you learn about our portfolio, who we invest with, and then you can even apply for funding there. So if you are a business that meet our criteria, we'd love to hear from you. And then LinkedIn is always a good way to connect with me. That's where most of business seems to operate. Or you can even send me an email, Derren@veteranventures.us. I'm more than happy to take anybody that has questions about what we do, or even have questions about what they want to do as you make that transition and you continue to try to get as many data points as you can. I'm happy to help out wherever I can in that. So yeah, I'm happy to talk with any of your listeners and then find out where the dots connect and see where we can help each other out.
Awesome. Awesome. Derren, again, I want to thank you for your time today and all the wisdom you have provided to my listeners is greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you, our fans, for tuning into another episode of the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast, where we want to add value to you in your investing business. Tune into our next episode where we will interview another fantastic investing professional. See you next time.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the Service to Syndication Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate your support, and we are grateful about being a part of your journey to becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will get a lot out of what you just heard. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be in all areas of life. And if this was really valuable, share it on your social media stories and timelines. Thank you for watching and listening. Now go be great.